4-piston Toyota brake calipers will go bad. So if you have more time than money, watch this video because I'm going to rebuild these for under $50. Our first step here is to remove the slide pins. So there's a few special steps when doing a brake caliper rebuild, so pay attention closely. We want to push the pistons back, and here's the ghetto way to do it. If you do this more than 3 times a year, I highly recommend getting a tool like this. So we only want to push the brake calipers back the minimal amount, just enough to get the brake pads out if we are saving them. The next step is we need to remove the brake line going to the brake caliper. I highly recommend getting a flare nut wrench. They are very cheap. The next step is we got to knock the 2 17mm bolts off the back of the caliper. Depending on where you live or how long they've been on there, you may need a large breaker bar. Once we have the brake calipers removed from the truck, step 1 is to go out and clean them for at least 5 to 10 minutes with some heavy degreaser. It is vitally important to stay clean when you're rebuilding brake calipers. So specialty tool number 1 is a 2x4. So we need to understand how brake fluid works inside of the caliper because we need to get the 4 pistons out. So we're going to basically push air in right here. So that piston is going to come flying out. So we need to double block this one to get the farthest piston out away from the place the air is coming in. So pay attention closely and learn this from me. We're not going to go crazy with the air. We're just going to get the calipers or the pistons moving inside of the caliper. So if you go crazy with the air, it makes a whole cloud of brake fluid that you do not want to breathe. Trust me. A normal mechanic hack would be doing this, but you need to not do that. Do my method, it's substantially easier. So step 1, we're going to split the caliper in 2. So there's 4 14mm bolts holding the caliper together. So inside of the Dorman rebuild kit, it comes with 2 O-rings, so it's not a problem to reseal. Once the caliper is split into 2 pieces, it's extremely easy to work on. This surface right here with the arrow is a machine surface that you cannot pry on or grab with a set of pliers. If you want your life to be easy, these are called Nipex pliers. Actually, mine are the Icon Harbor Freight knockoff pliers. These are going to make your life so much easier than the pry bar life. Once the piston is almost fully removed, just take 2 thumbs and pull it out evenly. Everything is about being even here, and it'll pop right out. So here is the special tool. They're smooth jaw pliers, some of the best $25 I have ever spent. So here is the secret technique to removing these pistons. Clamp it right there, twist and pull simultaneously, and give it even pressure, and only use the pry bar as a last resort. Once the pistons are removed, you're going to need to use another Harbor Freight specialty tool. So it's a super fine pick. And there's a couple O-rings behind the pistons. So that's what we're going in to replace and why these calipers basically wear out. So these O-rings are actually a wear item that suck the piston back into place. So over time, they wear out. Alcohol is the most underrated cleaning solution you can use. Basically, you can stick your head in it and not get high like brake cleaner. So after a thick coat of alcohol, I like to get a toothbrush and just basically scrub the inside of the bore. So inside of the bore is a finely machined surface, so make sure I wouldn't go thicker than a toothbrush. So this is a little bit tedious, and you need some blue towels to basically soak up the dirt and the alcohol, and do this in a couple of passes until it comes clean. So this was a several hour process for the cleaning part of this project. So that's why I said you should have more time than money to do this job. These brake calipers are from 1997 and there's a whole bunch of corrosion everywhere I look. So if these don't work out, I'm gonna go buy some new ones, but we're trying to save some money here. So once everything is confidently cleaned up, it's super important to basically pull your gloves off if you wear gloves. Run your fingernail over the piston, and if any scratch on that piston catches your fingernail, it is trash and don't use it. Replace the piston at the dealership or get a new caliper. So we got the Dorman rubber rebuild kits and let's put them in. I'm not the hugest fan of Dorman, but this is the budget build. Just make sure you order 2 sets because the box only has enough O-rings for 1 caliper. So double checking everything is clean with the blue rags. It's time to put some O-rings in. So there's a very special step here according to the repair manual. You can check out charm.com, but it points to the O-rings and it says to use rubber grease. So this is Toyota genuine rubber grease that you probably can't buy. I used to work at the dealership. I did find some on Amazon. It's just high temp rubber grease for brake caliper sliding pins. So this is actually the correct stuff to put inside of your sliding pins, contrary to popular belief. So I'm pretty confident to use it as O-ring lube, and let's put them in. This is the proper way to install grease on an O-ring if you don't want it to tear. You're going to put some in your hand, you're going to squeeze the grease into the O-ring on every single surface. I can tell you after busting like 50 O-rings, this is the way to do it, including oil filters. So let's put those O-rings into the calipers. They slide in super easy. This part is not particularly challenging. After applying a thin coat of grease to our newly cleaned pistons, you want to walk them in evenly with your thumbs and they will push right in. And I actually pulled a couple out to make sure the O-ring wasn't tearing. So if you do this little greasy step, the O-rings will not tear and not leak. So you just basically walk your thumbs around the piston and it'll squeeze into place. So you need to leave the piston up. You don't want to push it all the way to the home spot because we're now going to do the most challenging part of this entire job. We got some high quality Dorman seals here. We can see they're all warped and everything, but they should be fine. So we're going to take those and we're not going to put grease on them because they're not a sealing surface, they're just a dust wiper. So you want to think about these like a condom. They're not the funnest thing to put on, but sometimes you got to do it. So you're just basically going to put it on the top of the piston. That's why we didn't push the piston all the way back. Wrap it around just like a condom. Once the top is locked into place, the hard part begins. Now you're going to push the piston all the way to its home position evenly, always applying even pressure. Use your finger to make sure this dust wiper is into its home position on the back side of the caliper, pushed all the way down. So the aftermarket rebuild kits come with these silly rings that are pretty difficult to install. The original Toyota ones look like they were glued into place. I'm not sure about the OEM ones. I tried several different methods, including snap ring pliers. Just do this by hand, it's the easiest way. So you're going to wrap it around the piston on this side right here because you can't get your fingers in there and it will go into its place. But then you have to take a screwdriver and make sure the seal is basically laying flat, and this was the most challenging part of this entire job because that ring just likes to pop up. It's time to basically bolt the two calipers back together. So with the 4 bolts, I just got red Loctite and coated every single part of the thread because there's no torque spec and you do not want this coming loose. So according to Loctite, they do want you to coat every single part of the thread when Loctiting a bolt. So there's 2 O-rings sealing these calipers together. Right here, one just fell down. So I ended up coating these in rubber grease so that didn't happen. I just gave it a good old Harbor Freight impact gun torque spec, and with all that Loctite should be good. Installing the caliper back on the car, we got to put those 2 17mm bolts inside of there. I didn't look up the torque spec, it's usually about 90 foot-pounds. I could be wrong on that. So if you're rebuilding your brake calipers on your old truck, it's a good idea to replace these little rubber brake lines. I have another video on that linked in the description because these like to also collapse and make the brakes lock up, as I found out the hard way. Attach all the brake lines up and double check everything is tight. So let's jump into the brake pad install. So if you have a 1st generation Tacoma, 3rd generation 4Runner, these brake caliper anti-rattle pins are an absolute nightmare. So here's the trick if yours don't have any tension. You're just going to take that anti-rattle pin and the side that has the opening, you're going to flex it down. So this will recreate some tension so it doesn't rattle down the road. So you should wiggle this and it should be pretty stiff. If it's not, you need to basically bend it, buy a new one, or add some tension to it. Toyota trucks have a very special bleeding procedure that I have never done until recently. And if you want to see that video, because you do need to bleed your brakes after rebuilding your brake calipers, the video is right here.